Hi there. Today I'll be teaching you how to get your sample, or what we call the research sampling method in a research, because I know that in doing a research there are a lot of things that you have to know, and so one of which is what we call the research sampling method. Ano nga ba ito, and paano nyo nga ba ito isasagawa sa inyong research? Now, so at the end of this lesson you shall be able to identify different research sampling method, as well as determine and of course use appropriate research sampling method, and recognize the importance of sampling method. Okay, so for us to begin, let us first identify three basic concepts that are related to research sampling. We have the population, sample, and the sampling method or sampling technique. When we say population, it is the group which the researcher wants to study. So meaning this is the general subject or the general number whom you are going to study. Let's say you are going to study the effects of TikTok to academic performance of the senior high school students. So when you say population, yung target na pag-aaralan ninyong group of people. So in my example, you are going to study the senior high school students. So meaning, ito po yung tinatawag nating population. But the problem there is, what if your target population is, let's say, 200 people, or let's say 1,000 people? That would be costly, effortful, and of course you have to really exert a lot of efforts. You are going to print thousands or hundreds of survey questionnaire, and we don't want that, because besides it's tedious, besides it's time consuming, financially constrained din siya. Why? What I mean with that is mahal din ang pagpapaprint and so on. And ayun, so in order to avoid that, we are expected, or we can actually get a sample out of this population. Pero ano nga ba ang sample? When we say sample, it is a subset rather of a larger population. Kumbaga, kukuha lang tayo ng halimbawa or samples doon sa buong population natin. Let's say, in my example earlier, if we want to study the effects of TikTok to academic performance of students, kukuha lamang tayo ng 50 out of, let's say, 200 ang senior high school students sa school ninyo. So, kukuha lang tayo ng 50. So, yung 50 na yon, okay, as you can see in this picture, okay, yung 50 na yon, that would represent our sample. Kumbaga, sila na lang yung i-study natin, hindi na yung buong 200. Bakit? Or yung buong 500 na senior high school students. Again, dahil masyadong magastos, time-consuming, at syempre, hindi natin kayang i-administer, especially kung ang paggawa lang natin ng research ay 5 months lang ang maximum niya, kung gaano natin katagal i-conduct yung study. So, ibig sabihin, kukuha na lamang tayo ng sample. Okay? Pero, paano natin malalaman kung sino, ano yung dapat na samples na kukunin natin? Yun ang tinatawag nating sampling technique. Okay, so again, when we say sampling, it is a method in selecting research participants. Meaning, yung process, yung pagkuha natin ng sample doon sa ating population, yun yung tinatawag nating sampling. And there are two types of it. We have the probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. When we say probability sampling, a technique in choosing a sample with the help of criteria. What does it mean? We are going to get a sample from a population using particular criteria. Ibig sabihin, all of the respondents in that population, or all of the informants, let's say 200 senior high school students, has the chance to get selected, okay, to be your sample. That's the meaning of probability. Now, when we say non-probability, it is a sampling technique which the researcher has no fixed or predefined selection process. Ibig sabihin naman ito, you're just going to get the sample from your population randomly. Wala kang particular na criteria. Okay? Again, when we say probability sampling, you are giving all the 200 or all of the people in your population the chance to be selected. While doon sa non-probability, okay, meron tayong tinatawag kasi na random and purposive. Well, don't you worry because you are going to understand that as we go on. Now, pag sinabi natin probability sampling, okay, we have 4 types: the simple random sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and stratified random sampling. Alam niyo ba ang pagkakaiba nito? Unahin natin sa simple random sampling. Here, if you are going to use this particular sampling method, let's say senior high school students nga yung ating respondents, informants or population, 200 sila. Ngayon, ang gagawin natin kapag gagamitin natin yung simple random sampling, ililista natin lahat, okay, nung pangalan nung 200 na senior high school students. Tapos, we are going to put these names, or yeah, of course, the names in the box, and then pipili lamang tayo ng, let's say, 50 or let's say 70. Okay? So, yung mga pangalan na makukuha natin sa box na yun would be our sample. Okay? But the question there is, sir, how do we know kung 200 or 70 or kung 50 dapat ang kunin nating sample? There are certain formulas in order to get that. And one of which is yung tinatawag nating Sloven's formula. But I'll gonna share that to you in the next video because hindi yun yung focus natin. Ang focus natin is kung paano lamang kayong makakakuha ng inyong sample from a population. So again, when we say simple random sampling, you are going to get the number of all the population. Let's say 500 population. Siyempre, kukunin mo lahat ng pangalan nila. Or let's say 50 yung respondents, population mo. So masyadong madami yun. Ilista mo lahat pangalan, and then you're going to put that in a box and then pick, let's say, 25 para half. 25 names. So yung 25 na mabubunot mo doon, yun yung magiging sample mo. So meaning, yung 25 na yun, that they would represent the whole population ng 50 na respondents mo. Gets po? And that particular example is what they call fishbowl sampling. So, ibig sabihin, sa simple random sampling, may probability, okay, mataas ang chance na makuha yung mga students. Especially, they don't know if they will be picked. But at least, binibigyan mo sila ng karampatang rights, or let's say, a chance to get selected. Okay? So, that is SRS, or simple random sampling. Now, let's move on to the probability sampling. Probability sampling number 2, we have cluster sampling. So, in here naman, let's say you have 200 senior high school students, you're going to divide that population into groups or clusters. Let's say yung senior high school sa school ninyo ay yun yung population nyo, di ba? Yun yung i-study mo kasi nga effects of TikTok sa academic performance nila. Ngayon, to do the cluster sampling, ihahatiin mo yung 200 na senior high school students, maybe in terms of their strands. Let's say, STEM, HUMS, Automotive, HE, Automotive Servicing, Arts and Design, and so on. So, hatiin mo yung 200 na yun into subgroups. Tapos, afterwards, kukuha ka na ngayon, let's say, tagfa 5. 5 doon sa Automotive, 5 sa HE, 5 sa ICT, there. Yun naman yung tinatawag nating cluster. Okay, again, when we say cluster sampling, you are going to divide the population into subgroups. Okay, grupuhin mo sila. Let's say age. Sabihin mong, kunin mo lahat ng 17 years old, 16 years old, 20 years old sa 200 na population mo, and then doon ka napipili in each of these subgroups ng iyong magiging sample. Again, paano mo malalaman kung tig-ilan sa isang cluster or sa isang grupo ang kukunin mo? Okay? Gagamitin mo dyan yung Sloven's formula, which I'll be teaching you next time. Okay? Let's proceed naman sa third type ng probability sampling, yung tinatawag nating systematic sampling. From the word system, you are following a series, a system, a sistema. So in here, you are going to choose sample from the population through intervals. Paano yung intervals? There should be sequence, pagkakasunod-sunod. Let's say, yung study natin ay effects of TikTok sa TVL, grade 12 na students. At yung TVL natin, meron tayong 30 students. So, gagawin natin, you are going to list or get all the names of this 30 students, as you can see in my example. Okay, and then you're going to assign each of these students or respondents a particular number. Tapos pipili ka na ngayon. How are you going to choose? Okay, depende na po sa inyo on how you're going to do that. So, let's say pwede namang every fifth. So, lahat nung may pang fifth or panlima sa counting mo, okay, ang magiging sample mo. So, we have here Rai, Nomer, Dean, Kiana, Luke, and Dana. Okay. Bakit silang napili mo? Again, kasi ang ginawa natin ay yung systematic every fifth. Okay. 1 si Ann, 2 si Vin, 3 si 7, 4 si 10, 5 si Rai. Ayun, so 5 kukunin natin si Rai. Kasi yung criteria natin ay yung panlima sa pagbilang natin, hindi ba? Okay, or yung lahat ng may 5 na number. Okay, tapos 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ayun, so si Nomer. Okay, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then si Dean. Ayun, si Dean. And then 20, we have, ayun, so every, pagbibilang ka ng 5, kung sino yung pang 5, okay, sa counting mo, yun yung kukunin mo. But that depends on you. Pwede namang, let's say, kung 10 ang kukunin mo, di every 2, every 3, ganun. So, 1, 2, 3, yung pang 3 kukunin mo. 4, 5, 6, o yung pang 6 kunin mo, ganun. So, meron kang sinusunod na interval. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the last type of probability sampling. Dito naman, you are going to divide the population into subgroups, okay? To make sure naman that all of your population is being represented. Let's say, yung iyong population ay masyadong madami, let's say 100. Okay? Ngayon, kukuha ka ng sample, gagawa ka ng grupo ngayon na kung saan 15 to 25 years old, 26 to 35, 36 to 45, 46 to 55, 56 to 65 naman, and then doon ka na kukuha ng each. Okay? Para make sure na lahat ng age bracket like 15 to 25, lahat nung yung bracket na yon may chance silang makuha doon sa or for them to be selected as your sample. Okay? Ayun siya. So ibig sabihin, dapat lahat nung grupo mo, okay, lahat nung, let's say ang study mo ay tungkol sa population. Okay, or tungkol sa population. Ngayon, dapat kukuha ka sa mga bata, matatanda, or ibig sabihin may representative ang mga bata, ang kabataan, ang mga magulang, ang mga asawa, ang mga anak, ang mga may trabaho, ang mga walang trabaho, ganun. So, there, you are giving, you create the subgroup. Gagawa ka muna ng grupo to make sure na lahat ng sektor, okay, doon sa particular na population mo ay nare-represent. Okay? So, again, merong representation na magaganap. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng sektor, lahat ng subgroups ay may representative or may chance na mapili. Okay? So, yun po ang probability sampling. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng participants or people sa iyong population ay may chance na mapili bilang iyong research informants or respondents. Okay? Now, let's proceed naman sa non-probability sampling. Pag sinabi natin non-probability sampling, ito, you don't really follow certain criterias. Okay? Ibig sabihin, may probability na hindi makuha yung mga dapat mong makuha. So we have convenience sampling, purposive sampling, snowball sampling, and quota sampling. Unahin muna natin ang convenience sampling. So from the word convenience, okay, that means easy. So if you're going to use this in your research, kung sino yung may pinakamadali na makuha na bilang respondents, yun ang makukuha mong respondents. Ease, sabi niya, easy for you to get these respondents. Let's say, random passerby. Halimbawa yung ginagawa ng mga fast food chain minsan, which I experienced last time, wherein nagsasurvey ata sila tungkol sa yung service ng kanilang food chain. Fast food chain rather. And then, kung nakakuha sila na, like, kung sino mga kumakain, sila na yung binigyan niya ng survey questionnaire. See? Convenient. Very easy for them. Okay? Pero the question there is, gaano kadami or ilang sample dapat, let's say sa isang kainan, ilang tao ang dapat sumagot sa survey question mo? Again, gagamit ka na, pwede mong gamitin ang Sloven's formula, which ituturo ko in the future. Okay? Or let's say, you want to know the satisfaction of passengers sa modernized PUJs or jeepneys, yung na modernized. So, ayun, pag sinabi natin convenient, kung sino lang nakita mo sa paradahan, binigyan mo na ng survey questionnaire mo. Yun ang tinatawag natin convenient sampling. Ibig sabihin, wala kang certain criteria. May pinag-aralan man yan, babae man yan, lalaki man yan, it doesn't matter. Okay? Basta, ang nakadepende sa pagbigay mo ng survey questionnaire is kung sino yung malapit at kung sino yung pinaka-madali mong nabigyan ng survey questionnaire mo. So, yun po ang tinatawag nating convenient sampling. Now, kapag sinabi naman nating purposive sampling, here naman, you just don't go and give questionnaires to people randomly. Hindi pwede yun, okay? What you do here is that you should know or identify the purpose of your study. Okay? So, let's say, ang study mo ay, you want to know the effects of bullying sa academic performance ng students. So, syempre, hindi ka basta-basta pupunta sa classroom nyo or let's say to other sections and just ask questions or conduct an interview. Bakit? Dahil dapat ang focus mo, which you should interview, ay yung mga nabully na students. Ibig sabihin, yung purpose ng study nyo is all about bullying. And so, yung respondents or yung informants, yung taong sasagot sa interview nyo, should be the bullied ones. And so, dapat, when you use purposive sampling, you should know the purpose of your study. Hindi ka dapat mag-conduct ng purpose. You should not interview someone na wala namang kinalaman doon sa study mo. Okay? Let's say, a priest. Ang study mo is all about bullying, yung experiences ng junior high school students. And so, hanap ka ngayon ng mga nabully na junior high school students dahil yun nga yung purpose. Okay? Now, hindi ka pwedeng mag-interview or mag-survey ng priest dahil wala naman siyang direktang kinalaman doon sa purpose ng study ninyo. Okay? Ayun. So, dapat if you're going to use purposive sampling, ibig sabihin nun dapat make sure na yung purpose ay malinaw sa inyo. Okay? Next, let's move on to the third one. We have the snowball sampling. From the word snowball, kapag kasi yung snow, okay, ay umiikot, di ba? Lumalaki siya. So, this is sampling method applied when informants is difficult to trace. So, as you can see in my illustration, let's say, ang study mo ay how do people infected with HIV live or how do they face their daily life? Ganon. So, let's say ang kilala mo lang na HIV positive ay isa. Ngayon, with that person, syempre, you are going to ask him or her, let's say, Kuya, may kilala ka pa ba? Or, can you refer another person na sa tingin mo is HIV? Or, you believe that HIV positive so that I can also conduct the study? Ayun. And then, that person will suggest now, let's say, isa pang tao. And then, pupunta ka naman sa taong yan. Tapos, sa taong yan, ngayon magtatanong ka ulit. So, sir or ate, may kilala ka pa bang ibang HIV positive? Okay lang po ba na malaman ko para makandak ko rin? Ganun. And then, but of course, before you ask those questions, kailangan mong ma-ensure that there's confidentiality, na hindi kakalat yung information tungkol sa study mo. Hindi dapat lalabas yung mga parangal nila, ganun. Okay, so it should be ethical pa rin. So kung ayaw nilang sagutin yung survey mo or yung questionnaire mo, it's okay. Ayun, so ngayon, ginagamit ang snowball sampling kung mahirap talaga maghanap ng mga respondents dito. Let's say yung mga babaeng nabubugbog ng asawa. Siyempre, hindi ka pwedeng pumunta sa police station at tanungin sa kanila, "Ma'am, sir, can I ask the name of those people na experience domestic violence?" Hindi pwede yun. Okay, kasi confidential yung mga informations na iyon. Hindi nila pwedeng basta-basta ibigay. So, let's say, kilala nyo, or let's say, ate mo, or pinsan mo, so siya, pwede mo siyang tanungin kung okay lang na maging part ng study, and then, magtatanong ka naman sa kanya, tapos i-refer ka naman niya sa iba. Ganun. So, hanggang sa dumami ng dumami, yung iyong respondents. So, most of the time, ang gumagamit ng snowball sampling ay qualitative at case study in particular. Okay? Ayun siya. Now, let's go to the last one, yung tinatawag nating quota sampling. Kapag sinabi nating quota sampling, alam mo na ibig sabihin nun. As the researcher, you are going to set a limit or a number in which if you're able to reach that number, then tapos ka na sa paghahanap ng samples mo. Okay, let's say pumunta ka sa school ninyo and then mag-interview ka ng perception nila ngayong face-to-face na ang school. Ngayon, ang target mo, let's say, 10 sa elementary, which these are being represented with different colors dito sa ating sample. So, yung first color natin, sabihin natin representation ng elementary students na i-interviewin mo. Okay, for example, 10 na elementary students. Tapos, punta ka naman sa high school. So, you're going to ask 10 students naman and then punta ka sa college. Tapos, mag-interview ka doon. So, after mong makuha yung 10 naman sa college, then quota ka na. Okay, 30 na kasi yung plinano ninyong quota ninyo or yung gaano kadami yung respondents ninyo. So, kung na-reach mo na yung quota na yun or yung number na yun na sinet ninyo, then tapos na ang data gathering mo or yung quota sampling mo dahil nga yung quota or yung end number ay nakuha nyo na, na-fulfill nyo na. Okay. So, ayun ang tinatawag nating sampling method. So, thank you for watching, for listening. I hope na may natutunan ka. But before I end this video, i-summarize lang natin. So, in doing a research, you get to hear the word population, sample, and sampling method. Kapag sinabi nating population, yan po yung general number ng nais ninyong i-study. Let's say, the experiences of students on face-to-face, during the face-to-face schooling sa Pilipinas ngayong 2023. Parang ganun. So, syempre kung sa school nyo, yung whole population or yung students, kasi students naman. So, that is your population. Ngayon, masyadong malawak yun. So, gagawa ka or kukuha ka ngayon ng sample or mas maliit na number para hindi magasto, hindi rin time consuming. Okay? Tapos, para makakuha ka ng sample mo rather, may tinatawag tayong sampling method, which may dalawang uri, yung probability sampling at non-probability. Pag sinabi nating probability, lahat ng tao or lahat ng tao dyan sa population na yan, may chance makuha. At yung non-probability, hindi lahat ng tao dyan sa population na yan ay may chance na makuha bilang isa or representative ng data gathering mo. So, sa probability sampling, we have yung SRS or simple random sampling. Ibig sabihin, ililista mo lahat ng pangalan, tapos pipili ka lang ng let's say 50 or 70, tapos sila na ang magiging respondents mo. Kapag sinabi naman natin cluster sampling, gugrupuhin mo lahat, tapos doon ka napipili ng mga magiging respondents mo. Kapag sinabi naman nating systematic sampling, ililista mo lahat ng pangalan nila and then you're going to pick kung sino ang magiging respondents mo. At stratified random sampling, grupuhin mo lahat, maybe in a particular criteria, after which lahat dapat ng grupo na yun ay may particular na representative. Kapag sinabi naman natin non-probability, like what I mentioned earlier, hindi lahat may chance makuha bilang yung sample respondents. So, kapag convenience, kung sino yung malapit sa inyo or kung sino yung pinakamadaling ma-access na informants. Kapag sinabi naman natin purposive sampling, yung direktang may kinalaman naman sa study ninyo. And most of the time, case studies or qualitative study ang gumagamit nito. Okay? And snowball sampling naman, it refers to it is more on the suggestions or recommendations ng mga taong nauna mong na-interview. At kapag sinabi naman natin quota sampling, magkakaroon ka ng particular or certain number, and then kapag na-reach nyo yung number na yan, let's say 60 sa isang araw doon sa public market, since nag-check kayo kung ano yung impression nila sa prices ng mga commodities ngayon. So kung nakapag-survey na kayo ng 60 at 60 naman yung plinano ninyong quota, di tapos na ang sampling method ninyo or nakakuha na kayo ng sample ninyo. Pero the question here is, paano natin malalaman kung 20 dapat or 30 dapat na respondents ang kukunin natin sa isang population? Ituturo ko yan sa tinatawag nating Slovin's formula, which i-share ko sa inyo once na makagawa ako ng video again. Okay, so thank you for patiently waiting. Patiently listening. I hope na may natutunan ka. So thank you, and then stay safe. Bounce. Bye bye.